So Laura Loomer out with an interesting new take, which, you know, she may be right. So let's put it up there on the screen. Here's what she had to say. Quote, I don't think the GOP is going to survive post-Trump. There's too many conflicting personalities trying to jockey for the mantle to MAGA. None of them have what it takes to be Trump's successor. We are witnessing the end of a future post-MAGA movement as we know it because everyone, quote, inside the big tent that the GOP forced on us realizes that they hate each other. There won't be a viable political movement post-MAGA. You can see the writing on the wall. Nobody has what it takes. So, you know, I think she's right. I actually think she's 100% right because Trump is the most beloved figure in the Republican Party since Ronald Reagan. Now, by the way, this does, and let's explain and define terms. Does that mean that the Republicans will not win a future election? No. What she's saying is that GOP, as it's currently constituted, is not going to survive post-Trump. I think that's accurate. And the reason why is his personality is the binding glue of everything. It's what keeps anti-Israel and pro-Israel folks fanatically pro-Trump who put their trust in the personality. It's what keeps, I don't even know, like people who are pro-Steve Bannon want to raise taxes on the rich with people who, like Ron Johnson, who want to cut the corporate tax and don't want to stop stock trade banning. It's like the singularity of his personality. People. Maha, oh my God, yeah. Maha's going to exist in the same party as Lindsey Graham, you know, in the future. No, it's not happening. So it's his personality and his love with the base, which is what keeps it all together. It's genuine occult of personality. And I actually think that's why Loomer is the most accurate in her explanation of Trumpism, because it's all about him. Now, I'm not some supporter or whatever of Laura Loomer. I thought what she did with Vinay Prasad was disgusting. But my point is just that at a political level, I do think she's correct. It's also why whoever comes next, you're just going to have a hell of a time. Because at a personality level, it's just like George H.W. Bush. Did he successfully ride Reagan's coattails to the 92 or the 88 election? Sure. But he got blown out in 92. He didn't have the same personality, the same connection. Trump is Reagan-esque in terms of his love with the base. And also, let's think about what it took for the GOP to have to come back in the year 2000. It was 8 years in the doldrums. A lot of it was defined by opposition to Clinton. You barely, I mean, you could define whether you won the election or not, you know, in 2000, but, you know, it came damn close for an electoral thing. And it took 9/11 and Iraq for you to win the popular vote in 2000. It took a long time. And then after that, it took 20 years to win the popular vote again. So I think we are in a similar kind of turning point where, you know, in a next administration, MTG is not going to have to couch every single criticism in, but I love Trump. She's just going to be like, here's what I think. Yeah. And screw the current president. A lot of people did that under Bush. Nobody ever had that level of support with the base.
I think the closest equivalent on the Democratic side, which has some lessons, is Obama, right? And there was a lot of Democratic triumphalism, the coalition of the ascendant. You know, there was an assumption that this Obama coalition was something that was durable, right? That it wasn't just specific to him and his particular, like, charm and charisma and his story and all of whatever that entailed for people. And that was just not true. You know, the Obama coalition, he was the only person who could put together the Obama coalition. He was very good at getting himself elected, not so good at, you know, getting other Democrats, especially in off years, elected, and certainly wasn't able to hand his mantle even one election forward. And Hillary Clinton is ultimately defeated by Donald Trump. And then, you know, to your point about did that mean the Democratic Party never won an election again? No, of course not. Joe Biden gets elected. But that has not stopped the overall sort of deterioration of the Democratic Party position and put it in a potential doom spiral. Now, I think Trump is sort of like, in a sense, like rescuing them from that. And there's a possibility that out of that, you actually get someone who is more in the Zoran mold, who has the charisma and has a different type of politics and has some distance from the sins of the past, et cetera. That's certainly a possibility at this point for rebirth for the Democratic Party, though nothing is remotely guaranteed. But I think it's very possible the Republicans are similarly overestimating how much that realignment that they celebrate so much is truly durable outside of the singular personality of Donald Trump. And, you know, he, like, whether it's J.D. Vance or Don Jr. or whoever, or Marco Rubio, whoever it is that he tries to really anoint as his successor, I think he will have about as much sway with the electorate in anointing a successor as Barack Obama ultimately did.
The Clinton example is a great one. So why did Al Gore fail in the 2000 election? Where, by the way, even if you think he won or whatever, he only won by 500 votes in the state of Florida. It's a massive screw up compared to 96. The 96 to 2000 map is one of the biggest sea changes in politics that very few people go back. And they don't look at it. They really ignore what happened. Well, the story within that was that Clinton, again, his support was all about Bubba, like him, and his talks, folksy kind of way of connecting, but it wasn't built on any like political message. And Gore tried to separate himself from Lewinsky, but also kind of embrace himself as this like steady hand on the wheel. And it almost worked. But the point actually for whoever comes next is if Trump is unpopular, but very popular with the base, you cannot win your primary without wholly embracing him. This is a huge problem because in 2008, McCain did what? He was like, yeah, Bush, he's like, fuck off. Like, don't ever campaign with me. Sit in the White House. I want nothing to do with you. And that was, to the extent he had any chance, it was by able to draw some parallel away from Bush. And Bush, he didn't mind. Or maybe he did, but he didn't do anything about it. You think Trump is going to tolerate that?
Right.
I mean, what are you going to do? You're going to have to kiss Trump's ass all day long if you want to get yourself to win the primary. But then how do you win a general election? Something I've been thinking about is in 27, I cannot wait to ask JD to be like, hey man, you flamed Kamala for saying that you had no difference between herself and Joe Biden. So do you have any difference in how you would have handled this presidency under Trump? He can't answer that honestly. We all know it, okay? But that's a real problem. If Trump is at 35% popularity, but 90% popularity with the GOP base. And, that's one where a Democrat, you're not held by those chains. You can just say whatever you want. There is no leader of the Democratic Party. You can win the damn primary. And so you've got all of these forces which are built on his own personality. And also, look, as long as he's alive, he will remain the tweeter in chief. It doesn't matter. You think he's going to give up the reins when he's not president? He will be the Mongol king in Mar-a-Lago who summons whoever the Republican is down there once a month. And because if they want something to be done, Trump has got to support it. So it's not George W. Bush who sails, does his paintings and goes to Rangers games. Like, you think Trump will abide by the presidential norms of post-presidency?
Not a
He's going to be tweeting up until the day he dies. So there's a lot of personality problems that are built into this that just never have existed. Maybe Theodore Roosevelt is the best example of a president who served 2-ish terms, and then kind of tried to come back, and he did nuke Taft in the election. So that could be, the scenario that we see in the future. But I just see bad roads ahead, for the GOP because of that personality base thing. And how are you going to run, and establish yourself as something new unless you really are on a massive high water mark like the Reagan administration was in '89, I'm not so sure that's going to happen. We're still 3.5 years away.
Yeah.
Nobody really knows.
Well, and you can also see it kind of coming apart in real time with all of this factional infighting that is broken out, and Laura Loomer's at the center. I think you're absolutely right that she understands. This is the reason why she comes to the White House and has the influence she does, because she gets it. Yeah. This is not about anything other than Donald Trump and the person of Donald Trump and loyalty to Donald Trump and whatever Donald Trump says. Like, that is the end-all be-all. She understands that, and that's the game she plays. And that's why she has been able to position herself so effectively in this administration. But you've got her fighting with MTG. We'll give you some of those details in a minute. You've got the influencer wars with, Candace versus Fuentes and Fuentes versus Tucker. And, Fuentes is really serving. I see so many parallels with like the left after Bernie's defeat in 2020.
Absolutely.
Where there's the sense of nihilism that takes hold, where you've got Jimmy Dore out there.
Brianna.
Glenn, as the purist of the pure. And it's a very similar kind of a dynamic that you see unfolding of all this like bitter acrimony, personality conflicts. And then you also have some like substantive policy differences between a number of these camps as well. But MTG and Laura Loomer have been fighting in a way that only the MAGA ladies can go at it. It really is a particular brand of messiness, like at new levels. We can put this up on the screen, some of these these quotes. So this is from a Daily Beast rundown of all of this. The headline is "Fuming Loomer Goes Nuclear on MTG in All-Night Attack. The far-right provocateur has gone after her fellow MAGA Republican Representative Marjorie Greene with a level of vitriol that is striking even by Loomer standards, calling the lawmaker a rabid dog and a lying fake Christian whore." In part, she said, "This is a woman who allowed her sexual impulses to tear her family apart. She wants to now tear our country apart to try to steal Trump's movement away from him. Don't let this homewrecker become a country homewrecker." We can put the next piece up on the screen, a little bit from MTG. She says she has about Loomer, she has no long-time relationships because she psychotically turns on everyone. Laura Loomer is the most unstable person and worst liability to ever walk in the Oval Office. Fighting began, they say, after Loomer stunned some of her own supporters by ranting against the military's decision to celebrate a Medal of Honor recipient. There is a lot more here, by the way, in terms of the back and forth was quite lengthy and extensive, including Loomer accusing Greene of getting bent over backwards inside the gym by every man who isn't your husband. So that was the general tenor of this dispute. I believe this came after Loomer had said something about MTG's quote-unquote roast beef in her pants. So these two have a long time acrimonious relationship, Saagar. But like I said, to me, it's just emblematic of a movement that everybody's trying to jockey for a position. They see, the Trump era is coming to an end. They're trying to get in good with Trump. They're trying to shape what comes next. They hate each other. And it's all kind of bubbling to the surface in a way that we haven't really seen in the past.
Yeah, I mean, I said this to you, and look, I hope it isn't taken the wrong way, but as the parties switch up in terms of support based on education levels, it's not a surprise to see some of this burst out into the open.
It's not exactly an elevated and classy dispute.
Look, I mean, if you take a look,
it's fun to cover.
If you look at the ratings for the type of people who engage in reality television and those type of personalities, I mean, actually, let's think about it. One of the things that has happened in the last, Trump realignment is that a lot of reality TV stars, bodybuilders, like people and all of that who are lesser educated, but, also very popular, have become Trump supporters. So it would make quite a bit of sense that that behavior, of course, and Trump cabinet members, you're exactly right, with WWE and, UFC, everything, that's all Republican now. So, well, if that's the case, then that behavior is going to replicate itself. It's funny because it's at a demographic level. There's a viral thing going around right now of one of the richest neighborhoods in Illinois it was a Republican district in 2012, and it's now D plus 35. And that's the story of America, right? Like a 2012, I think it's called Winnetook. I don't know. I'm not from Illinois. But anyway, one of the wealthiest neighborhoods in Illinois, voted for Mitt Romney by overwhelming margins, voted for Kamala by 35 points.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, those are the type of people who find a lot of this stuff very distasteful. But the people who find it hilarious and interesting, drama, etc., that's reality TV. That's the demographic. A lot of those people are Republican now, so you're going to see it replicated in its politics. And I think that's a very polite way of saying trashy. Hey, if you like that video, hit the like button or leave a comment below. It really helps get the show to more people.
And if you'd like to get the full show ad-free and in your inbox every morning, you can sign up at breakingpoints.com.
That's right. Get the full show, help support the future of independent media at breakingpoints.com.